Hey cats, it's Ed Nitro Bud here. Bit of a sneak peek for you today on an up and coming Puma shoe. This is the Magnify Nitro 2. A full update to that Puma Max Cushion shoe that we saw last year. A more refined vintage this time. How does it measure up against the V1 and some of the other competition? Let's find out. Welcome back to the channel, people, or if this is your first time here, make sure you hit that subscribe button. Also tinkle the bell of notifications. Give this video a thumbs up too, that really helps out. And of course, share it with your running buddies. Dankeschön. Looking at the Puma Magnify Nitro 2 here. What a great looking shoe as well. There's a bit of snap about this one. I'm loving the silver Puma logo here. And of course, there's some power tape. In my UK size 11, we got 339 grams. That's 12 ounces on the money. There's approximately 43 millimeters of stack height here in the heel of my size. About 35 in the forefoot, so we got an 8mm drop. Don't worry, I've measured it properly from the inside of the shoe. Very slight weight saving over the original then. This one's got a lot more foam, but it's a little lighter. I've got a Sure A durometer measurement of about 35 across the midsole. We've got about 12 centimeters here in the widest section of the mid to forefoot, and about 9.5 centimeters in the widest point in the heel. This is a shoe that's been supplied to me by the big cats Puma themselves, but they're not paying me to make this video, nor will they vet my views before my valued viewers. We'll kick it off with the upper first. So upper-wise, we've got a slightly wider forefoot here in the Magnify Nitro 2. Just a little bit more generous in terms of the toe box height. If you found a few of the Puma shoes a little bit narrow in the past, maybe the velocity, then you're not going to run into that same issue here. There's a stretchy knit-like material across the toe box. Does remind me a little bit, I suppose, of the Vaporfly 4% Flyknit, or perhaps the New Balance 1080 V11. It's certainly very forgiving on the toes. It doesn't feel like you're trapped in there. Certainly a shoe that goes for that comfortable feeling around your foot. I wouldn't suggest it's overly plush, but I think it's going to appeal to a wide cross-section of runners and perhaps people for casual use as well. The profile's certainly on point, and there's certainly a New Balance 990 style appearance here, and that's no bad thing in my book. Great stuff from the brand to make something that looks really great casually but actually performs on foot too. So slightly more forgiving fit here, but the lockdown is just as good as usual. I've tried it with both standard lacing and using a runner's knot, and I've had no problems achieving a good lockdown, no heel slip whatsoever. The eyelets there have some reinforcement on both the lateral and medial sides, and we got a little bit of power tape there on the medial side to produce a little bit of that structure. Upper reminiscent of several shoes really, and all of them I've liked to some degree about their sort of upper materials. Certainly the 4% Flyknit from Nike. You've got a few areas there that are reminiscent of that, I suppose. The flexible nature of the tongue that we found on the New Balance 1080, and there's certain parts of the shoe that remind me really of the Infinity Run from Nike as well, although I suggest the heel counter area is more reminiscent of Puma's own Velocity Nitro. Very comfortable shoe. I've mainly been running in this one at my sort of steady paces, somewhere around about 8 minutes per mile. Tongue's well padded, it is slightly gusseted as well. So you've got that sort of booty-like construction that people seem to enjoy these days. I wouldn't suggest the shoe is sort of overly warm on foot. There's quite a bit of ventilation from those knitted areas. I do like the slightly higher nature of the initial eyelets here, just keeping the laces away from the toes, and that slightly lower lace loop does mean that we get absolutely no tongue movement at all over my initial runs. The heel area is reasonably padded, and there's quite a hard counter there as well. It's quite wide too, it comes around a fair amount, finishes just about where the Nitro logo is here. So all the best bits of recent long-range effort shoes here. It's kind of like a best of, and there's not really anything wrong with that in my opinion. After my initial runs, I'll give it a 2.8 out of 3 for the upper. Breathable yet plush without being overtly heavy. Midsole.
Midsole now.
So we've got a full-length Nitro midsole here in the Magnify Nitro 2. Soft and compressive, yet very forgiving. Much more so actually than the V1 if you found that a little bit firm. I don't think the actual compression of the foam here is greater than that one. I got about a Sure A durometer reading of 35 here, so that's a bit more than the average I suppose, which is about 28. But I think with this amount of cushion here, you don't want total squash. If that's what you want, then I guess you can go for the Invincible run. This isn't really that type of shoe though. I really do like the profile of the midsole and that almost meringue-like texture that we've got here. I am convinced though that this midsole is made up of just a single unit of Nitro. The area just under midfoot does appear to have a slightly different texture to it, but I don't think it's a different formula of Nitro or anything like that. All my measurements were very consistent, in fact, across the whole thing, so don't expect something very, very overtly squashy like the Prime X or the SC Trainer from New Balance. It really is a slightly more stable and consistent ride. Now, you might say 35 Shore A is a little bit firmer than usual. Well, you've got to remember here that this isn't all that far off the average. It's still exceptionally soft, but perhaps in a more sort of light strike pro kind of way. The ride and feel, though, whilst running for me, does place this shoe into a quite specific use case, I suppose. That of steady speeds, around about 8:30 per mile through to about 8 minutes per mile. So that's like an easier sort of pace for me. Fits into sort of recovery, easy days, or perhaps your longer, slower runs. Now, I've got many shoes like this in the shoe sanctuary right now. It's the SC Trainer, the Invincible Run, the Nimbus 25 as well from ASICS. This shoe certainly perhaps appears to be more of an impact protector, though I think Puma have got the balance just right this time. It's certainly not a quicksand-like run that you get in the Invincible Run from Nike. Some people just find that shoe way too unstable. It causes more problems than it fixes. It's a way more exciting ride than the 1080 from New Balance. I just found that one to be kind of dead, really. The SC Trainer is all squash, but no real return, and the carbon plate just feels like it's a bit of a red herring in that shoe. The Magnify Nitro, though, comes over as a nice, smooth, soft and forgiving ride. It's compressive, yes, but I just feel like it's a little bit more nimble than those others. Way more stable than Nike's offering, that is for sure. I think that's why perhaps Nike have included that sort of Strobel board on top of the Zoom X in the version 3 that we didn't see in the V2. Now, it isn't a shoe that I'm going to reach for if I'm going to go out and do some speed work. There's other stuff for that. I've been using the Deviate Nitro Elite 2, 12 by 400 meter reps at my 5k effort in that. The shoe saw me going well under my targets there. Really pleased with that session. A good threshold workout for me there, and only 100 meter recoveries. That was certainly a test, but it wasn't quite as tough as I imagined it to be. Magnify Nitro 2 is a perfect recovery shoe. That's what I used it for this morning, in fact, and I think it will probably take the spot of the Invincible Run 3. Just improved lockdown really here, but it's still nice and cushioned underfoot, and that's really what you want from that type of shoe. It's been designed for a specific thing, and it does it very well. I'm going to give it a 2.8 out of 3 for the midsole after my initial runs. Outsole now. So outsole wise, it's an improvement once again over the V1. Puma have decoupled all the rubber sections here, and we just had a single one on the V1. 4 portions now in the 4 corners of the outsole. So it lessens the weight a little bit with the same amount of Puma grip, but also allows some more flexibility for a smoother transition. Just makes it a little bit more versatile across a load of different terrains now, I think. We've got larger, more spaced out lugs on the medial side of the forefoot, and then thinner stretch lugs on the lateral side, then almost tyre-like sections in the rear create a really good reliable landing platform. There's a bit of exposed nitro there in between. Really quite a thick application of nitro back here in the heel. I don't see there being any durability issues on this one. I think the rubber's going to long outlast the midsole. Only one real issue there with the extra rubber depth. The lugs did collect up quite a bit of soft, damp debris. I was going along some sort of forest paths and tracks, and there was quite a lot of that around. I mean, it was easily dislodged after the run. But there were a few stones back there as well, so just something to bear in mind, I suppose. You can't have it both ways, can you, with outsole rubber? I mean, it's not a deal breaker by any stretch of the imagination, but you've got very small areas and cutouts here, back there in the heel especially, and you can expect a build-up of sort of smaller stones and grit back there. Easily removed with the jeweler's screwdriver. Puma grip is always up to the task at hand. I haven't seen a Puma shoe yet over the last few years that hasn't been awesome in the outsole. Just really stable, reliable traction on lots of different surfaces and unaffected by rain as well. Some outsoles just fall to bits when you get a little bit of moisture on the ground. So aside from the tightly grouped lugs here causing a few issues in terms of debris build-up, it's a pretty good showing for the Magnify Nitro 2 on the outsole after my initial runs. I'll give it a 2.7 so far. We got to talk value now. So I believe this shoe is set to launch in July, and I think it's going to be around about $150 or about 135 Earth credits here in the UK. I think that puts it in a great place in terms of price when you compare it up against the much more expensive Nimbus 25 or the Invincible Run 3. I found those shoes to be not what people want sometimes in an easy recovery or perhaps long slow run shoe where they may be too unstable or simply too firm. I think Puma have got it just right here in the middle. You have to talk price point at the moment as well. The cost of living in this country is just bonkers. If you can get a good shoe that's going to do the right things for you and fill a hole in your rotation and it's cheaper, well, it's a no-brainer. I mean, don't even get me started on the SC Trainer. What New Balance were trying to do with the pricing of that shoe, I just don't understand. The upper on this shoe totally blows that one out of the water. And I think the cushion's just way more appropriate. There's no plate or anything here, but you don't really need it for that type of shoe. I mean, you could do some slightly faster reps in this one if you really needed to, though that's not really its main purpose whatsoever. So release is a little way off on this one, though it does at least give me a chance to get some more miles into the shoe and to confirm my views and opinions for you a little way down the line, perhaps closer to release. I do see quality here though in terms of the build. I haven't had a bad Puma yet. I don't really anticipate there being any problems in terms of durability or longevity. You're certainly getting a lot of foam here for your money, though a more reasonable price, it has to be said. So I'm going to give this a 2.7 out of 3 for value after my initial runs. Just reduced perhaps a little bit by it being quite a niche shoe. Is everybody going to need a longer, slower run or recovery shoe? Maybe not, depends what you're training for. I certainly need one though. I'm 43, don't forget. If I've totaled the scores up correctly, that gives us 11 out of 12 after my initial runs for the Puma Magnify Nitro 2. Did you enjoy the original version of the Magnify? I think this is a big upgrade over that first shoe. Puma have refined it as they always do with each iteration. Let me know if you're going to be picking this one up down the line, down in the comments. Very quick musical interlude for you. I was really amazed to see that Mark DeMarco had dropped a new album, and I think it's 8 hours long. I think if I'm correct, there's 109 tracks on this one. They all seem to stem from back in 2018 through to about 2021. A majority of them are sort of strange, unfinished instrumentals. There's a few more fully formed tracks here, but it's certainly an odd one. It's also called One Wayne G. I don't quite understand what that is or the significance of it, but there's a massive different range of songs here, some more funky type efforts, some more melancholy sort of synth based stuff. There's even a song about a beaver who's sort of grown kind of bored of his life in the dam. It's all really weird. So I guess if you were looking forward to hearing some new Mac DeMarco material, well, there's a lot to listen through here. Possibly too much, actually. You can put it on in the background and just kind of check it out. It's kind of interesting to see how some of the songs that he actually put on more recent albums started out and how he kind of crafted them and made them become what they are today. One Wayne G from Mac DeMarco. Thanks for tuning in, people. Always appreciated. Hit that subscribe button and click the bell below for notifications. If you've got a very specific comment or question you want to get to me, please hit us up with a super thanks. Really helps support the channel on a more ad hoc basis. Give this video a thumbs up, like, and share it with your running buddies. My name's Eddbud, and I'll be seeing you